and welcome back. I'm here with Andrea Binley, and she is a firefighter, a mom, a wife, and literally wears all the hats. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna get into it and talk about her and her family life and how she manages all of it. So it should be fun. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to hang out with you, Chelsea, and share and talk about all the things.
Yeah, me too. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Andrea Binley, born and raised Southern California. I live in Rancho Cucamonga right now. I work for San Bernardino County Fire Department. I'm a captain there, and I am our recruitment and retention coordinator. I am a mom. I have two stepkids, soon to be 18, 16, girl, boy. And then my son that my husband and I have together, who is 8, going on 9. And we live here in Rancho, and we have 3 dogs. Why 3 huskies? I make bad life choices. Um, one of which I kind of rescued after a call and the family gave to me, and so that dog and I were bonded because it was trapped under a vehicle, and I only had 2, and my husband said no more, but then I said, "So, what about this other one? Like, I think it loves me now, and we need to have it." And so her name was Blaze, and so she came home with me. We're a busy family, senior, sophomore, and 3rd grade, and they keep us on our toes. We have some life challenges right now. We have some family members that are in the hospital and just trying to recover from some illnesses. And so, just a lot of different things going on, being pulled in a lot of different directions. One thing that we were talking about is capacity. You and I were chatting before this. And one thing that I realized through the fire service is some of the things that I participated in when people that were on duty were injured at the hospital or were showing up as a union member or as a friend or as a liaison, those things all parlayed into everything that we've been able to do for our family. And it was just nice to be able to have that skill set and that knowledge base to be able to advocate for them, which we're still in the process of. And now it's balancing because I am not the direct family member. So I'm like, where's my place, right? So just trying to
Yeah.
find that balance. All 3 kids play sports. The older 2 play club soccer. The youngest plays ASO, and we just have a lot going on. And then um, with everything else that Chelsea and I have chatted before, I am the co-chair for the Women's Fire Alliance, which is a nonprofit that promotes equity for women in all aspects of the fire service. We have our upcoming Inland Empire Girls Empowerment Camps that we now host with 8 agencies collectively. And San Bernardino County gets the pleasure of hosting. And then next week, I get to go to Gettysburg on a leadership retreat, but that's normally my prep week. So again, my capacity is we're threading the needle right now.
You're going.
We'll rest later. We'll rest later.
So is your
Yeah.
schedule different now than it was when we talked previously?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wrote our recruitment program 3.5 years ago, and the department decided that that was a good idea. They supported it, and then they pulled me off the floor to implement the program. At one point, I had a partner who worked on the program with me, and so we were on a modified 40 schedule. The program was very successful. Our numbers dramatically increased for applicants, but we were in need of staffing, which is paramount. So they pulled us back to the floor. So I went back to the floor for about a year and a half, and then I just got pulled back in March. And so just started doing the recruitment again, and we had a big push. Then our tower will be starting in October. I try to chip in where I can when it comes to extra shifts. And then some of these events are on the weekends and they kind of take over. But I've also had to learn how to contribute where I can, but also find my no on some of these things, which it has to be beneficial to the department. And then also it has to be beneficial to me because I think the first time I was off the floor and I was doing it, I was prioritizing the department only. And I think that was to my detriment. So I've kind of refocused and we've triaged events in different ways. The support that I have from my chief staff is amazing, and they are very supportive and they agree with the triage that we're doing for these events. So it's a nice balance. I do feel like a 40-hour work week, although it sounds nice maybe to a spouse, I don't love it as much as shift work. And I think that's because I've done shift work most of the last 20 years. And then I have to go to Costco with regular people and I want to lose my mind on a weekend. And so it's just finding that balance. And then it's like when you had your routine on your days off, like I used to go to the gym on my way home from work and decompress. I don't really have that now because I have to get home. We have to do homework or sports and dinner and bath and bed. And so it's just different. So I definitely have some sympathies towards those 40-hour employees because I'm doing it for seasons and they're doing it for their career. And it gives me a lot of perspective and it gives me a lot of connections to different people within our department as well. It's great for stability for my youngest. I think he really enjoys it. But we'll see how long this season lasts because there's always another season.
Yeah, there's always something else happening. I feel like fire, at least from a fire wife's perspective, it's always pivoting. It's pivoting. We're doing it again. Just now, my husband's taking a new position that he'll be in the field more. And I'm like, here we go. It's different than what he was doing before. He's going to end up out on strike teams more than he was before. And we've gone through a season of maybe not so much of that. And now we're going to go back into it and it's going to ebb and flow.
There's a book by Marie Forleo called Everything's Figure Outable. And it's one of my favorites because just that phrase in general, I think it's the fire service. And then you can also pivot that and apply it to life because things are always going to come at you sideways. Again, whether I'm at work and something breaks and my husband calls me, or whether your husband's at work and something breaks and you have to call him, it's just something's always going to happen. And it's just how we respond to the things that happen, even in life. Just controlling what we can control within our area and our sphere, and then focusing on the next thing. I'm staring at a running to-do list that I have, but that's going to take care of itself. I even woke up this morning early before my alarm and I started thinking of all the things I needed to do today. And I just had to tell myself, I'm like, thanks for the acknowledgement. I'll get to it. It's all written down. Like, I'm going to go back to bed for a bit and then I'll get to it as my day goes on because otherwise, for me, just being type A little bit of OCD, my brain and my thoughts will keep going and take over control of my day. So I really have to kind of be in control of them and tell them where I need to put them and protect my peace in that way as well.
Yeah, and I think also knowing when you need to put things down that you don't need
Mm.
to be carrying. There's no reason why I need to vacuum absolutely right now. There's no reason why I can't do that tomorrow. Not at all.
Yeah. I was trying to teach that a couple years even to one of my teenagers was other people's emergencies aren't your urgencies. And so in the fire service, they are, right? Their emergencies become our urgencies and we got to get there and go help. But on the day-to-day basis, is it your urgency to get these things done because somebody else forgot this? And even for them, you forgot your homework, it doesn't mean that I have to hustle and bring it to you, like, that's a you problem. So, that's an accountability and responsibility problem for them, and so other people's emergencies don't always dictate our urgencies, and at least in my personal life, now it's just trying to, again, triage things like we do at work. So, I'm gonna triage my to-do list the same way, and whatever I don't get done, like you said, can I put it down? Does it need to get done right now, or can I defer that? Or can I even delegate it? Or can I hire someone to help me? Do I have to do it myself? What's more valuable, my time or my money? And so, kind of just asking myself those questions and seeing where that lands on my spectrum.
So what did it look like when you were in the field more when your kids were maybe a little younger?
So, when I came back to work, I will say after I had my son, going back to a 48-hour shift schedule was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, harder than a promotional test, harder than like anything I've ever done to date in the fire service. Leaving him for that time span was just gut wrenching. So when I went back to work 5.5 months after he was born. And this actually sparked a really important cause to me, which is focusing on maternity leave rights for first responders. And so that's something I'm very, very passionate about and I will continuously advocate for. And maybe down the road in the future, I'll have some good news for you. We'll see. I worked for Upland. And then when I came back at 6.5 months, when I was postpartum, we annexed to San Bernardino County. So I went from a four-station department to the largest area in the continental US for geographical coverage area. I think 224 San Bernardino City is one of the busiest in the United States. It depends on what year they do the census, but it's up there. We're a busy place and you can work really anywhere you want geographically. You can pick up shifts. If you want to be in the desert, you can make your way to the desert. If you want to be in the valley, you can make your way to the valley with shift bids and things like that as well. So it was definitely something that was hard. And then for me, the biggest thing that I had to focus on was the reframe. I wanted to go back to work. So that was my choice. And that was also our family circumstance. So I could either feel sorry for myself and sad about the moments that I was missing, which at times I was. But I would also have to focus on the things that I was teaching my son and teaching my stepkids through acts of service, honoring your commitments, through showing up maybe when you really don't want to, and putting other people before yourself, really showing them what it's like to serve a community and to have something that is not just a career, but a calling and something that you feel proud to be a part of. And so for me, those were the things that I had to focus on. I did tell my husband, if my son starts walking when I'm at work, push him down. I did do that because I was like, I am not missing that. I said, push him down or just don't tell me about it. And so he hasn't to this day. I have my suspicions, but he hasn't to this day. And I still had my moment where it was the first time he took a step. So it all worked out. But yeah, there are those times where it's hard. And even with being on the floor juggling, like I am not the best at personal emails. Emails will come from the school, and I missed the opportunity to volunteer last year. And I was super upset and I beat myself up about it. And then my husband's like, "Why are you so upset?" Because I wanted to be there. My son's fine. Everyone else is fine. It's just me. And so it's just sometimes that internal pressure I think that we put on ourselves as moms, as women, the societal pressures as well. When we add those in, it just compounds. And so it's really for me trying to quiet the noise, find what brings that peace and that comfort and protecting that. One thing I have that really helps that I have it actually right here is this my gratitude journal. When I don't practice my gratitude, I definitely feel a shift. When I don't read my devotionals or I'm not in my Bible, I definitely feel a shift and a difference. I also had some health struggles over the last 2 years. I got diagnosed with Graves and hyperthyroidism to the point where I was off the floor for 3 months. I was having lots of tachycardia and chest pain. And so I was on a fire and my heart rate was 197 the whole time. So I felt
Ugh,
not great. It didn't
no.
feel good. I knew I had been diagnosed and I had been having some symptoms, but it wasn't really too bad yet. And then it was just kind of progressively getting worse, the tachycardia. So we're on this fire and it was like garage fire. It wasn't, a 3 alarm, anything super significant. We were able to, put the fire out. My crew did a great job, but came out for a bottle swap and I had my Apple Watch on and I look at my engineer and I go, I feel like shit. He's like, you don't look good. I go, oh, it's at 197. That's why. He's like, do you need anything? I'm like, how about a new bottle? Let's finish this and then we can rehab. So not the smartest move on my part, right? But we got the job done and then we came back and we figured out everything after the fact. And so I ended up being off the floor for a little bit because we couldn't stabilize my heart rate. And I had to end up starting medication. I had put on weight. For a while though, I lost 35 pounds. I lost tons of muscle mass. And so it was like this season where I felt like that my body's like betraying me kind of. And I was like, okay, maybe I don't think of it as that. Maybe it's my body telling me I'm doing too much and this is a barometer. Like this is something that's helping me instead of hurting me. And so I had to reframe that for me too and find the right things that worked to treat my symptoms and then was able to go back to the floor and, every now and then acts up, but most of the time we're consistent and just trying to figure out the things that benefit me now. Like I don't really do CrossFit anymore, which I did for 12 plus years of my life and I love and I miss. But with that condition, it's not something that's really good for me. So I have to pick and choose which workouts I'm going to do and different things like that. So there's some seasons, but I'm also grateful for this other position because of that. It allowed me time to heal and recalibrate my body. Everything kind of ebbs and flows in life. But if, like you're saying, I think sometimes when I don't chill out, I think that was God's way of saying, "Hey, how about you take a seat?" And I was like, "No, no, no, we're fine." He's like, "How about you just sit down? I'm gonna sit you down. Okay, I gotcha. Like, I guess I don't have a choice now." And so I think that that was how I had to reframe it for me and how I view it and um how I still try to like navigate my way through that. It was a scary season though because I did not know honestly if they were going to medically retire me. And so I had to wrestle with that as well. And I've seen a couple people go through that medical retirement process lately and I feel like it's so hard because when you get to do, your 30 years and you get to the end and you had this goal and you met it and it's your decision, I feel like as challenging as the transition might be, it was your choice. When it's medical, I feel like it's so not your choice and that decision's completely taken away from you. So that was something that I had to grapple with. And I've had to work through this with the word rest. I've injured my back before. Rest to me used to be a bad word. And I would actually have to tell myself, "We're not gonna rest, it's just active recovery." I would literally have to tell myself that in a different way because I have such a hard time doing that. That's just my personality.
No, I don't think that's unique to you because my husband is also a firefighter and he sits still for longer than 5 minutes and he needs to go out and do something. And so I think that it's hard to rest because your body's always going to the next thing,
Yeah.
you're always going to the next emergency.
I was jokingly saying this when we were chatting before, but I think it's also probably true. It's probably partial trauma response. Like, let's be honest. There's probably part of that. And as much as I've gone to therapy, done all the things for incidents that have, not sat right with me, I love talking about that because some people don't wanna talk about their feelings in the fire service, and I'm like, "Oh, we get to talk about feelings? Let's go." And they hate it. But I think that part of that is that busyness is sometimes just ingrained in us, and also the fire service attracts a certain personality type, and so I think that we're also similar in certain ways, and that mold deviates here and there, but there's a lot of similarities between people within the service.
Yes, there's a lot of similarities, and I think you're right. Some of it is a trauma response, like, for my husband specifically. I don't know that that will ever change. I think he will always have to be busy, and that's fine. It used to offend me, like, "Why don't you wanna spend time with me? Why do you have to be outside doing all these projects?" Until I realized that that's what it is. It's his coping mechanism, and I'm like, "Okay, not personal. He's not avoiding me. He's doing the things he needs to do to be healthy, and that's fine. Keep myself busy while he's being busy."
Or even having a dedicated time
Yes.
to connect and come back together because then in his brain, he knows he can work, 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 and then compartmentalize, shut that off until that time, you know?
Yes.
Because that's one thing that we're also great at is compartmentalization, right?
Yes.
But again, if it's on the calendar, if it's in the agenda, like we
Mhm.
will go do this and then, oh, we have to shift gears and do this. We can refocus and recalibrate and do that.
Our time is when he's home. It's like 5 o'clock is dinner. We're gonna start
Mm,
dinner. He needs to be ready to come back into the family and he's good about it. When we were young, though, like, I didn't understand what was going on. So it was like, "Are you literally ignoring me on purpose?"
yeah.
And that was my own insecurity too. I'm just like, "Oh, okay, I'll see you when I see you. Like, go ahead." Like,
Yeah.
kinda thing.
There's I'm trying to remember the book right now and I could the 4 Agreements. Have you ever
Yes.
read the 4 Okay. So when it's like, don't take things personally as much, like, that's that part where and even to this day, like, I have to remember that, right? I would try to think of that too sometimes as like, "Okay, am I taking this personally?" And I heard something on, Mel Robbins' podcast, like, "Hey, what did you hear when I said that? This is what I heard when you said that," because then it allows for that connection to be reestablished rather than, "This is what I heard, I'm offended because I'm taking it personal," without even conferring if that's what you actually meant, you
Well, and
know?
it's really interesting. I think as we get older, like, I'm almost 44, so it's like,
I'm 44, I'm almost
Right.
45.
So I think as we get older, we become more curious about how other people are feeling, and
Mhm.
we get really clear about how we want to be as a person.
Yeah.
And so I've just seen just in the last several years, it's been more about, but did you hear that the way that I said it?"
Mhm.
And my husband's the same way. Like, "I see you're reacting to this. Are you
Mhm.
sure you heard me right? Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
this is how I
Yeah.
meant it." So
Yeah.
I think that that comes with age too.
Do you know what though? I will say I do think this younger generation is more emotionally attuned than maybe we were in our younger years because I hear even some of the conversations that our teenagers have. My stepdaughter had one with a boy who asked her to homecoming and it was a public ask and she said, "Sure, as friends." But then he was treating it as more than friends and then she had to respectfully tell him that she didn't want to go with him because he wasn't respecting her boundaries. And I was all, "Okay, girl." And so she was very respectful, very polite about it. He apologized after the fact and understood where he went wrong. But I think their emotional attunement is happening at a younger age, but I think it's also maybe dependent on the person and maybe dependent on their own traumas from their childhood and how they were raised and did they see that as an example or not?
I've seen a trend of people having kids a lot later in life than when we
Mhm.
were necessarily having
Yeah.
kids, right?
Mhm.
My kids are 21, 17, and 15. My best friend just had her baby boy 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
S I think when we're older, we have a little bit more capacity to teach our children a little bit more emotional awareness, like
Regulation. Yeah.
awareness,
Mhm.
regulation,
Mhm.
all of that stuff.
Mhm.
'Cause,
Yeah.
when you're trying to establish a career when you're in your 20s and you're having
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd have kids at 40 necessarily, but I can see how getting all that stuff established first and then having babies might have been better.
Yeah. I was different because my older 2 are my stepkids, and so I had my son when I was, almost 35, and so I was advanced maternal age, and then at 40, they call it geriatric. I'm like, "You get out of here right now. I will hit somebody." I'm like, "You're gonna break a hip and deliver in the same sentence. Get out of here. Like, rename that for me, please." And so for me, like, I did the career first. I joke my mom has 5 sisters, so I have 5 aunts, and they always used to ask me, like, when are you going to get married and have kids? Because I got hired when I was 25. I would get so annoyed and frustrated. And I would tell my mom, I'm like, I'm just going to bring my paycheck stuff, the next family event that we go to, and maybe they'll leave me alone. I don't know. But I did the house first and then the marriage second. And then I had my stepkids and then we had our son. And then, but I had friends that I went to high school with that had their babies in their 20s and early on. And it wasn't common for the group of people that I went to school with. I went to private school. A lot of them got married really young, married their high school sweethearts. They're still married to this day, which I think is super impressive. But that was one side that I saw. But I always knew that I wanted to do the career first and have that stability on my own before I wanted to bring someone else into the fold. That was always something that was important to me that I valued.
And I think that you had a huge advantage in that. You weren't
Yeah.
trying to do all of that and raise
Yeah.
babies.
I did make a deal with God that if I wasn't married by a certain age or had a baby by a certain age, that I was gonna adopt or have one on my own, and then I think he just laughed at me. He was like, "Just calm down. You're doing too much, girl. Calm down."
Yeah, I was a single mom before I met my husband. So I had an agreement with God that if I didn't meet someone that was good for both me and my baby by the age of 30, that I wasn't having any more
Yeah.
kids and I
Yeah.
wasn't getting married. That was it. It
Yeah.
was gonna be
Yeah.
me and Aiden for
Yeah.
life.
Yep.
And the moment that I made that agreement, in walks Cameron McFadden.
Yeah.
We make these agreements and God's like, "I don't think so, child."
I like the memes lately on TikTok or Instagram where it's like, "Oh, I trust in God," and then it says, "In fact, she's riddled with anxiety. She does not trust my plan at all." I trust you, I wanna trust you, but the struggle is also real because, my brain.
Wow, what a journey.
A journey. Yeah, it's been a journey, it's been fun, it's just, really just trying to as much prepare for the future, but enjoy where I'm at in each season, and, I feel that too because I have the older 2, but my son that I birthed is the only one that I birthed, the only one that I had first with, and every first is also every last, and so I try to soak those in as much as I can and just enjoy the moments and create the memories and do the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. What would you say to someone who is a parent, how to manage it? How in the fire service, when they are on that 48 or 72 or even longer shift, helped you the most in those times?
Resources for one. At one point, I had part-time nanny, a holdover nanny, and my mom. And so I'm staring at my calendar in front of me, which I still use, even though I'm on like the modified 40. I still whiteboard red, blue, and green for the shifts, so I know what shift is which day. And so I write everything on that calendar. We have a shared calendar. It's color coordinated, so then everything is clear across the board. And then I also have my manual day planner because I just need it written down in like 3 different places so I don't miss something. But then I have that shared calendar that would go to my mom or the nannies, and then I would also take a picture of it and send it to them. So it was just planning ahead and then using the resources. So one of the nannies who was absolutely amazing, and I had known her for a long time. She was a friend. Asked me one day, she's like, "Do you mind if I clean while he naps?" I'm like, "Do I mind if you clean?" I go, "Absolutely not." And so when I came home, the house was so clean. I said, "Okay, either I pay you to just clean or I pay you more hourly." She's like, "Just pay me more hourly." She knew how to fold a fitted sheet. To this day, I don't know how to fold a fitted sheet, but it was perfect. And so I would come home, all the laundry would be folded. She would send me a list of Amazon needs when I was at work and I would just order it. And so I just had to use the resources at my disposal and I didn't feel bad about that. I was just in absolute gratitude for her and just that season of our life. And she was so good to our son. She called him Turkey Lurkey. She was so good to him and I trusted her completely. Now, maybe you're in a different season where because at that point my husband wasn't working at home, which he has the ability to do now. So again, those seasons changed, but he was commuting with my stepkids like an hour plus to take them to school because they moved into my house. And so that was a different season. And so work from home, then that shifted, right? And that got to change. When we didn't need full-time daycare, that changed and some of those responsibilities fell back on us. So we had a, division of labor and figure out what our AORs are. So is this my area of responsibility? Is this your area of responsibility? And so when we talk about sports and club soccer and all of the extra activities, there's some things that I don't go to as a stepmom. Some of our dynamic within that blended family, there's seasons with it. And sometimes it's been positive and enjoyable. And sometimes it's been hard and tough. And so If it would to be our weekend, then I would go to the games. If it wasn't our weekend, then my husband would probably take the kids and I would focus on Declan. And so just knowing that I don't have to show up for everything as a stepmom, that gave me some peace and comfort. And then I kind of let myself off the hook from trying to do it all because they still have two parents that are showing up for them, which is their biological parents, and that's the most important for those kids. When I think of the fire service and I think of a household, I just think of areas of responsibility and AORs, and if you get really clear on those, and sometimes those overlap just like they would in the fire service, just like they will in the corporate world. Sometimes those overlap. Sometimes you're going to have to pick up slack in this area on a strike team. That's normally your husband's AOR, but for this 2 weeks, it might be your AOR. Just figuring out what is that division of labor that can be equitable for each of you, and then what feels good for your individual household, and then, like, do you enjoy doing all the cooking? If you do, then yeah, do it, but if you kinda resent cooking every single night, which I would, honestly, I'm like so if you don't enjoy it every night, then have that division of labor and come up with a schedule that works for you. Now, that doesn't mean a forced hour is not gonna happen. I got home late last night and I was joking. I was like, "Well, they'll be fed by the time I get home." And the person that I was at the event with, they're like, "Cereal?" Even if it's cereal, it's fine." And I walked in the room, I'm like, "What'd you guys eat?" They're like, "Cereal." I'm like, "Sounds good." Just letting it go because it's not the end of the world. It doesn't matter. And I think that's the other thing too, is just taking the lid off the Instapot, releasing that valve and just allowing the pressure to come off of you, off of your family, off of the social media platform, Instagram, just peeling back whatever doesn't feel authentic or good, and being able to just really kind of have that introspection and say, okay, this is what feels good. This is what's going to protect my peace. And for me, not going every single weekend protected my peace in that way. And that might change again. There might be a season where I decide to go. And I told the kids, I go, if there's an important game you want me to go to, you just let me know and I will be there. So I also communicated that to them as well. Because it's not that I'm not choosing them, I'm choosing to honor the peace that I have, which also benefits them, but it's I'm trying to navigate that. With a blended family, that can be really hard too.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like, but I can imagine that that can
Yeah.
be very complicated and it's delicate. My husband adopted my oldest, so we didn't have somebody coming in and out of our life, or he wasn't going back and forth. I was really lucky that way, or maybe not lucky. I'm not sure yet how that's all going to play out in his life. But as far as growing up, we felt like there wasn't inconsistencies that way. So I can imagine that being a blended family and trying to juggle your fire schedule is delicate.
Yeah, it can be, but I did take a stepmom coaching course a while ago, and I would recommend that to any blended family. Even if you're dating someone with kids, I wish I had found this years ago because I think that was something that was really life changing for our family. And for me too, knowing the data and the science behind it, again, it allowed me to not take things personally. It allowed me to remove some of that emotion from it. And so things that could have caused conflict, it allowed it to, instead of the boil turning up, it allowed to go back down on simmer because you're able to take that step back and have a deeper understanding of maybe what's going on there, or the triggers, and then seeing how, okay, did you play a part in this? Did you not? And seeing where everything lies, and is it beneficial for you to be involved in this, or is it not? Is it causing conflict? Is it not? And so again, that's all the adults figuring out their own shit. And I think that the adults owe that to the kids, and they owe that to themselves, right? Because I don't think that anybody wants to carry around their trauma and impart it onto their children, but I think it's until we have that level of self-awareness. So, I mean, sometimes I think that these things happen, so it's instead of why is this happening to me? What can I take from it? And then how can this be for me or for my family instead of happening to me? So, there's been seasons, and it's really just reframing it and
Mhm.
seeing what the positives are. If there's changes that need to be made, let's figure out what those changes are, get the tools we need to implement those changes, and then move forward through those seasons.
Yes, I'm doing
Yeah.
that right now as we speak. What can I put down? Because I know it's going to get busy.
Yeah.
What do I need to put down? What can I lower the bar on? It's lower the
Yeah.
bar and then lower it again.
I don't even think it's lowering the bar. I think it's just saying, this isn't for me right now. This isn't serving me right now. This isn't serving my family right now. Okay, so I'm going to put it down. Maybe later I pick that back up if I feel like it's going to serve me again. But if it's not serving me or if it's not serving them, then why do it?
Bring it a
Mhm.
full circle, knowing your capacity within what you're able to do is the key. Like, I know when I go shoot a wedding on Saturday, I am going to be worthless on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I am not going to try to plan the most
Elaborate dinner. Yeah. Yeah.
elaborate
Mhm.
gourmet dinner of all
Yeah.
time. We're probably gonna
Yeah.
have frozen hamburger patties and
Yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
you said sometimes it's cereal for
Yeah.
dinner, you know?
Yeah. Do
Um,
you Now, I have a question for you. When you shoot a wedding on Saturday and you're fatigued on Sunday, is it physical fatigue, emotional, social, or is it
all
all
of
of
it.
it, do you
It's
feel?
all of it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm on my feet
Yeah.
for 8 hours, usually not drinking enough water, not
Yeah.
eating, and I
Yeah.
have to be completely on for that whole 8 hours. I have to be social, and I'm an extroverted introvert, so I'm like, I love to talk, but I also need to be away, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm like a hermit. When I'm not working, I'm not out. Or if I'm not with my kids in an activity, I'm not out.
Yeah. I feel like when I was younger, I would have automatically called myself an extrovert, and I think maybe I was, but as I've gotten older, I do feel like it's that ambivert, that extroverted introvert, where, like, yesterday after doing those events back to back, like, I was talked out. I was talked out, I don't wanna talk anymore because
Really?
again, you're energetic, you're excited, and then I just need to decompress for a little bit and then unwind. But I've found that as I've gotten older, and I think that's also because at home, you don't really have that full decompression either. Um, Sometimes I feel like I could decompress more maybe at a station level from home, not from like work brain, but from home brain. And so sometimes I feel like when I was on the shift work, it was nicer to be able to decompress from home, okay, decompress from work. Like, it was easier to compartmentalize maybe. And now I feel like it kind of bleeds a little bit, so it's trying to find that balance.
Yeah, it does bleed a little bit. My kids are super good. They know after wedding days that it's like,
Mm,
mom just needs to rest. We're not going to ask her to do all these things for us. And they don't care. They're like, we'll eat whatever you want. We don't even care. Like, we can get takeout or we can have leftovers, whatever. And so their expectations of me the day after a wedding are super low.
they're realistic.
And they respect that I need the rest, which is awesome.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I used to put a lot of pressure on myself around dinner time, like, I need to make these elaborate meals for my kids all the time, and I don't do that anymore, and
good.
they've released me from that. They're like, "No, it doesn't even matter, mom, like, we can eat a pizza, it's not a big deal." And so, I say fed is fed, doesn't
Yeah,
even matter. Um,
yeah,
we'll have the healthy gourmet dinner tomorrow when I feel
yeah,
better. So, what I do after
yeah.
wedding day is basically sit on my couch and I'll read, or I'll go sit on the beach while they go surfing,
Mm,
and when Cameron can be home, he does a lot of the cooking or whatever. I had to release myself from my own expectations
I feel that.
and the expectations of the world. Like you said, social media is so mean. It tells
Yeah.
us that we have to be a certain way as a mom. No, you don't. If it makes sense for you and your family, that's all that matters.
I was thinking of one thing as you were saying that because 'cause I'm not good at it, but you're also teaching them how to rest. You're
Yes.
teaching them that rest is okay, that you're allowed to take that rest when you need it. That's something that is a valuable lesson, especially if your husband's busy-minded, busy-bodied. You're teaching them that it's okay to take that rest.
My middle one right now needs to be busy to stay out of trouble, I think. So he's busying himself, but he knows when he's tired and needs to go take a nap, and he's okay doing that, and so you're teaching your kids to rest when you rest. Everything that we're doing is teaching our kids something. Regardless of what we're doing, it's teaching them something. I had the best experience because I started to kind of freak out with Cameron going back to the field soon. I started to freak out and I'm like, "Oh my god, all this stuff is gonna be on me, like, the dinner and the dishes and all
Yeah,
the stuff." And my 15-year-old looked at me and he was like, "Mom, why are you freaking out? If you need help with the dishes, just ask. If you need help with
yeah,
dinner, you can help. Like,
yeah.
why are we freaking out about this? We've done this before. It's okay." It was a very reassuring, I'm like, "Okay, we must have done something right," right?
And even using the children for those chores, so it clears that browser tab in your brain. Hey, you're on dishes this week, you're on trash this week. If dad's gone or whatever it is, you take out the
Mhm.
trash once a week. That way you know what it is, they know what it is, the expectation is there, and then you also talk about like, "Hey, if we don't do it, this is what happens." You can get a reminder. If you don't do it and you get a second then, so they make it a priority just to get the thing done and then move on with their day. I think you said your oldest is 21, right?
My oldest is 21, yes.
So that prefrontal cortex isn't gonna develop until mid-20s, and even think about you in mid-20s. I think the first time I ever told my parents they were right about something was mid-20s. I realized it. Oh,
Mhm.
damn it, they were right. Like, my dad was right about that. You know what I mean? So, as they get older, I love the moments where like, "Oh, they did listen." They do hear us on occasion. And even in some of the harder seasons, they're aware, they're absorbing, they're figuring things out. They're gonna figure things out on their own, and it's playing that slow, long game and knowing that might not be till their mid-20s, and that's gonna be okay. And for me in a blended family, that's one thing too. Just knowing that it's the long game, it's the consistency and continuity that matters. It might not see the fruit of that come to fruition until mid-20s.
It's also making those agreements with them. We're making agreements with our spouse all the time about how we're gonna have things divided, but then also making the agreements with our kids that these are the things that we expect, and this is how you earn your privileges. For a really long time, I wasn't doing that, and so now we have agreements, like, these are the behaviors that aren't tolerable, and if these behaviors happen, then we're gonna pull back some responsibilities. Your cell phone's gonna become mine for a little while, whatever, and not necessarily consequences, but the way that you earn these things that we allow you to have because we pay for them.
Yeah, we do expectations, violations, consequences. And we have it on a sheet, and everyone sits down and goes over them together. For the older two, we do those together. For the 8-year-old, we have one that's age appropriate for him. But that way, they know what the consequence is before they even do the thing. And if something's not on there, something we didn't think of, the first time it happens, it's going to be a point of discussion. And then we're going to figure out what those consequences are down the road. And then it's on the sheet, and then you know what it is. So before they even commit the foul, they already know.
Yeah.
It's just like running a stop sign. You know, you run a stop sign, it's going to be $270 to $5 fine. You already know what you could be in trouble for if you do it.
Yep.
So if you're doing it willingly, you're making an active choice to do it. And so we allow them to buy in on what the consequences are. And sometimes we veto, but most of the time it's around freedoms, technology being one,
Yep.
cars being another, time with friends, social aspects. Like, so it is a consequence. Like, we'll scale back some of those freedoms if they violate what the agreement and the
Mhm.
expectation is. And in the same regard, when we've done a family meeting, I think the first time I asked this, they were kinda, like, in shock. I go, "Do you have any expectations for us?" And
Yes.
they were like, "Oh, oh," I'm like and so, they kinda gave us a few, and we're like, "Okay," and like, "Yeah." And some of them were like, "Yeah, that's not realistic." Like,
That's how you balance this life, right? You have to make agreements with the people that you live with, and a lot of it ebbs and flows. When we're in a really busy season, then the responsibilities are gonna fall more on the kids. They're gonna have more chores because we're not able to pick those things up, and if you start that really young, it's so much easier. I had this huge pressure on me to be like a free range parent. We live in a very small town where there's a lot of free range kids, and I thought that that was gonna be okay because everybody else was doing it. It wasn't good for my kids at all, and so we ended up in a pretty sketchy situation over the last couple of years, and we're finally out of it, but I realized that that wasn't for our family, and so we had to do exactly what you just said with the agreements, sit down and say, "These are the things that need to happen here," and once we did, things really calmed down. I felt pressured by the outside world like we were talking about, and I'm like, "Okay, no, we need to give that away, like, that's
mhm,
not we need to figure out what's good for us and our family."
yeah, 100%.
So, mostly, I think that's how we manage it.
Yeah, I mean, even being parents, this is our first time raising kids too. It's our first time,
Yep.
being this age, being an adult, raising kids too, and wanting to do it to the best of our capacity and ability, and wanting what's best for them, and wanting more than maybe we had or better for ourselves, and that could be in different aspects. It doesn't mean necessarily always financial or always opportunistic or different things. It could be in any capacity that you just want better for your kids. But that's also, I think, incumbent upon us to realize what works, what doesn't work, and for ourselves and for them. And again, absolving ourselves of some of that guilt. If it
Yes.
doesn't work and we tried it and it was coming from a genuinely good place, we tried it, didn't work, let's release it. And I like that word release too, because I heard you say that earlier. To me, really, I can imagine holding on to vocabulas and letting them go and literally saying, I'm releasing something. And so having that image in my brain really allows me to be like, okay, I let go of that, it's gone. I can't even pick it back up because I released it and it's gone, it floated away. I like that mental picture along with the act of seeing something like that in my head.
I think we covered a lot. I think the audience has a lot to think about. Was there any last words you'd like to add?
One thing I think just right now, like when we're recording this, it's been a heavy time across the world. Pick up the things that serve you, protect your peace, find out where the light is, where the people are that add some positivity to your life or the relationships that you have that benefit you and your family. And especially again, like fire season, find those people that you can lean on, find those people that are uplifting and supportive. And it doesn't mean they can't have a bad day, you can have a bad day, but that that are going to be there in that time of struggle and that are going to be there for you to lean on or confide in if you need to. And just try to mentally prepare and also come up with some contingency plans and release yourself of some of that pressure that you put on yourself. It's okay to let things go for 2 weeks for a strike team, 3 weeks for a strike team. It's okay. It's okay if you're in yoga pants every day. It's okay. I'm business up top and actually yoga pants on the bottom right now. I gotta keep it real. It's okay to take that pressure off yourself. It's okay to allow yourself that time to breathe and recalibrate and refocus. Everything that you're putting down is still gonna be there if you want it to be when the next week comes around, when the next day comes around. And for me, even in those hard seasons, really hard seasons, gratitude, practicing gratitude. And as much as it sounds like it doesn't make a difference, maybe
It
or how
does.
minuscule it is, it's so huge for me because it allows me to operate from the attitude of gratitude and being able to focus on the positives and have wins for the day, even in the seasons of hard and even in the seasons of struggle, being able to still be grateful and show gratitude. So those are a lot of final words,
Those were
final
great
thoughts.
final words. Yeah, you grow as a person when you are struggling hard, and let me tell you, I have struggled hard this last year. Being thankful even for the struggle, because if we hadn't had the struggle that we had this year, we would have been going along the same way and something worse could have happened. And so, I'm thankful for the struggle. I had to release things from my life during that time and not pick them back up, and it was fine. Um and it's really hard when you're in it, I think, sometimes to see the good in the things you put down even. So, I would add that. If you put it down and you don't wanna pick it back up and it's not for you anymore, that's okay too. So,
Yeah, 100%.
but yes, that
Yeah.
gratitude journal is freaking awesome.
It's my favorite. It's called the 5-minute journal, and it literally is true. It takes less than 5 minutes. They have them on Amazon, and so I think I have 4 of these, and what's really fun is to actually look back and see some of the things that you were grateful for over the years, and some days it's super simple. I'm grateful that I slept last night. Like, like, I'm grateful that we didn't get calls or whatever it is. It could be something super simple. I'm grateful that it's overcast and it's not 1,000,000 degrees in September. I'm grateful it's not windy. It could be anything that you're grateful for. It could be big or small, and it's just whatever is personal to you. And it really just it helps me at least refocus my energy. I do feel a difference, like vibrationally, energetically, whatever you want to call it. I don't care, but I feel a difference in how I show up when I'm not practicing my gratitude. I feel a difference in how I engage with other people. So I definitely do recommend that.
Okay. Well, it's been fantastic talking to you. This has been great.
Yeah.
If people wanna reach out to you, where should they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Fire Life Mom Wife, or the mentorship program that I teach, which is called Welcome to the Lion's Den, also on Instagram. So either one of those places, you can DM me. That would be the best place to get a hold of me.